You know the expression, you should never fear anything except fear itself. Just up until a few days ago, I never really looked that deep into it. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's saying you should only be scared of being scared because fear keeps us from true experience. But what if this common saying actually has more than one meaning? I think it does, and I'll explain why. If you were to ask me what my biggest fear was, I honestly couldn't tell you. Not because it's inconceivable, in fact it's quite the opposite. It's just something that cannot be put into one word. I could try to put it into one word, but that wouldn't really be doing it justice. For all of those who are curious, I guess I'll try to give a few one-word examples of what it could be, although unless explained, it will never truly be known. Words that come to mind are obscurity, unknown, or hidden. Now, if I just told you these words, you could maybe come up with an idea of what my biggest fear is, but you'll never really know for certain. What would you do or think if I just ended the video here? I mentioned I have a big fear, barely explained it, so what if I just leave? It won't affect me in any way, but it could affect you. Why? Your life will more likely than not end up the exact same way than if you did know. I said an explanation of my fear would do it justice, but I don't think that's really true. I wanted you to experience it, at least to some degree, and I'm almost certain that you do every day, whether you know it or not. Before I tell you what my biggest fear is, what is fear exactly? Well, fear is from our inherent nature of being scared because we don't know something. We don't have the information we want. It makes it a lot more difficult to understand and may cause us to worry, and if not taken care of, be scared, hence fear. Notice how most fears have to do with unknowns. The dark, tight spaces, even with animals like spiders or snakes. Why are we afraid of them and others aren't? Is it because they view them differently? I don't think so. Is it the experiences we've had with these things? Maybe, but I think it goes deeper than that. Let's pick one of the most common fears as a demonstration: spiders. I'll admit spiders are one of, but not my biggest fear, as I'll tell you in a little bit. Why are we afraid of spiders? Well, I want you guys to think for a moment on one question I have for you. What do you actually know about spiders? What does this question have to do with anything? Well, if my theory has some merit to it, we need to put it to the test. I said fear comes from not knowing, so maybe if we know more about spiders, we'll be less afraid of them, or more ideally, not afraid of them at all. But the general population doesn't know much about spiders, and that's why it's a pretty common fear. If things are scarier the less we know about them, why aren't, say, dragon fruit scary? They're not common, and I doubt many of you study fruits, much less dragon fruit specifically. Humans tend to base opinions off of knowledge that we already have. I'm sure you guys have heard of at least one or two scary stories that involve a spider, but I seriously doubt any of you have heard one scary story about a dragon fruit. We know that spiders can and have caused harm to others in a direct way, while dragon fruits have not. But if most of you watching this are honest with yourselves, that's really all you know about spiders. You've probably heard, spiders can hurt you, avoid them. If we're taught to avoid something, that may create a fear of that thing in and of itself. But that's a topic for another video. My point is this: you've heard bad things about spiders, you've heard little to no good things about spiders. Do you really have an option but to fear them? Well, sure, you can expose yourself to them through therapy, but why would therapy help? How does it help? Well, fear comes from not knowing. So by that logic, if I knew something, I wouldn't be as scared, if at all scared of it. It's really that simple. I know I've dragged this video on and you still don't know my biggest fear, but now I think it's time to tell you. Now that I know you have an understanding of what fear actually is, I think I can finally help you understand what my biggest fear is. Imagine that I took not just an example of spiders, but everything. If you barely know anything about spiders, how much less do you know about literally everything? In order for you to truly understand where I'm coming from, let's think for a moment. What is everything? Well, everything is things that exist or are true, even the things that we don't know about. It's pretty vague, but it's a general statement I've just given. What I want to focus on is the things that we don't know about. How much do you truly know? Do you know everything you need to know? Do you know everything you want to know? Do you know everything you should know? The answer to all of these questions is probably no. The sad part is no one on this planet will ever be able to answer all these with a yes. But why not? Well, the reality of the situation is that our minds are limited. We can only remember so much. Even studying for a test, for example, we can never remember all the answers unless we study for days or even weeks. The problem is we only have a limited time on this earth before we die. We don't have all the time in the world to study everything. But let's assume for a moment that we did. Imagine that you could pause time and study everything about or in the world. It may take 9 to 10 billion years or so, but you'd eventually know everything, right? I want you to remember the saying that I brought up at the beginning of this video. You should never fear anything except fear itself. Of course, there was the first way to interpret it, which I've already described, but I want to share my own interpretation of what this actually means. Fear is not knowing. My biggest fear is knowing that I can and I will never know everything. If you were given the chance to study for as long as you want, it simply would not matter. There are things that you can never know, no matter what. How many books do you think are in the world? 1 billion? 2 billion? Let's say for the sake of this video, there are 2 billion books right now in the world. You can go to them, study them all from front to back. That would take a while, but it still could be done given infinite time. The problem is, what about the books that have been destroyed? You can't go back in time and read them. You couldn't even know for certain how many books are on the earth right now, much less throughout all of history. And yet those books you do not know or could never know about were still written. Someone you probably don't know may have taken weeks, months, or even years out of their lives to write this book, just for it to never be seen by anyone. Do you know what it could have said? Sure. But do you? Well, of course not. All this to say, we're just talking about books here, not to mention literally any other subject. People, movies, war. There are people who you have never or will never know anything about, yet they still exist. Their existence isn't reliant on the fact that you know about them or not. They're still there, living their lives just as you are. I'm not sure how common of a fear this is because no one ever talks about it. But have you at any point during this video felt anxious? Possibly paranoid? To be reminded that you practically know nothing in the grand scheme of things. A great example would be a video game. Not just any video game, but a very specific one that you've probably never heard of. Would you be surprised if I told you there's a whole community around this particular game dedicated to speedrunning it? Probably not. But my point is, there are groups of people out there who have dedicated years of their lives to a game that you don't even know existed, and they know more about that one piece of media than you ever will. And that's just one example. There's literally almost an infinite amount of things that have existed or do exist that you won't ever even know about. To know that there are things you not only will never know about, but you can never know about even if you tried, it bothers me. Thinking about this fills me with a type of sickness and dread that nothing else does. Even this video, it'll probably only get like 12 views. That's over 8 billion people who will not only not watch this video, but they won't even know about it either, despite it being here on YouTube for everyone to see forever with a quick search. But the problem is, how can you know to search for it if you don't know it exists? Even if it does exist, do you want to even bother watching it? Are you willing to take however long this video is out of your life to watch it? If you're at this point in the video, clearly the answer is yes. But that's not true for most people. Just let that sink in for a moment. The hours I've poured into this video, just for it to have little to no impact in the world, then why am I making this video? Because it matters to me. I want a way to voice my thoughts without it being bottled up in me and never let out. Who knows? Maybe it'll help someone. Every action you take has an impact, whether big or small. If you come out of watching this knowing anything, I want you to know that no matter how small or insignificant something you do may seem, always try your best to choose to do something good. You never know who it may help. Maybe it will be thrown in the pile of trillions of decisions no one is affected by. Or, maybe, just maybe, what good you do will end up shaping the views of those around us. I promise to keep trying to live with the fact that I will never know everything. Just remember that there is significance in your life. You make one of the people throughout all of history who has ever lived. Do your best to make it count. Thanks for watching.